I waited to make this video. Well, not really. I made a video last night, but I was going in, and I obviously cannot post that because that's just not okay for me to post. I just want to send love and positive energy and healing energy to KeKe Palmer and her son and her family. I hope that she is able to stay away from Darius Jackson. I hope that she is able to get her CPL, CCW, take self-defense classes. I hope the people in her life that truly care and love her and cherish her and her son are able to step in and protect her. As far as Darius Jackson goes, I hope that he's held accountable for his abusive, violent, dangerous behaviors and actions. And I also hope that he's able to heal from his traumatic childhood. Because let's be real. I'm not saying this to justify anything, but let's be real. People grow up in toxic and dysfunctional, abusive, violent, dangerous families, households, and environments. And they grow up thinking that physically assaulting and putting their hands on people and verbally assaulting and mental and psychological abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse is okay. It's not. And at the same time, I also want to say, you cannot keep using your childhood trauma to justify treating other people horribly. You cannot use your childhood trauma to continue to emotionally, sexually, physically, financially, mentally, verbally assault and harm other people just because you went through something as a kid. Not to mention that people are 25 plus, 30 plus years old, still trying to use their childhood for why they are showing up at their very big ages today, acting a damn fool. Now, remember, months ago, we said that Darius Jackson was abusive, was misogynistic, was self-hating and racist, sexist and homophobic and transphobic. We said all of this months ago. But I'm not making this video for it to be some type of we told you so or what did you expect. I'm not saying that for this. Because at the end of the day, a lot of us end up in toxic, abusive relationships with people. Because a lot of us get love bombed. We get put on these fake pedestals, aka the idolization phase, where these dudes come in, these women, these people, these thems come into the fold, showing you all of this love and attention, acting like they really like you, like they can't get enough of you. And they do this to hook, line, and sinker you into a horrible relationship. But you won't know that until later on, and or situationship, and or extended talking stage. Basically, they hit you blindside with all of this love, attention, and affection. Because toxic people know they can't come in on bullshit off the rip, because most people, if they see that you're already mentally abusive, verbally abusive, sexually abusive, violent, physically abusive, you're not going to give them the time of day. So they have to come in with their representative, aka their fake persona. Oh, I love you. I care about you. You're the most beautiful person in the world. I want to spend every single waking moment with you. I can't get enough of you. And then as time goes on, that mask, that representative, that fake persona that they introduce you to at the beginning, that's going to fall off. It's going to fade away. And a lot of times with these toxic people, they use children, they use pregnancy to trap people. People end up trapped in horrible relationships because they want to stick around for the sake of the child. Meanwhile, the person that they're with is violent, abusive, not only to them, but to the child. There's already alleged pictures and evidence and photos and video of Darius Jackson physically assaulting, grabbing, pushing KeKe Palmer, destroying her property, threatening to harm her and the baby and the child. like I said before, a lot of these types of dudes, the red flags are there. When we were saying that this man got all upset and angry and took to social media to chastise her over the clothes that she was wearing at an Usher concert in Las Vegas months ago. And a lot of people, especially dudes, especially cis men, came on and was like, oh, he has every right. That's his woman. That's his child. Again, women are not property. The person that you have a child with or the person that you're dating is not your fucking property. And the way we talk about women like they are property is misogynistic as hell. You don't own her. She doesn't have to dress a certain way because she's talking to you. And then what never made sense was she was already dressing like that before you got with her. Obviously, that's what attracted you to her, but that's what I mean by the red flag. Everything that they supposedly liked about you, which is what attracted them to you, will be the very same reasons that they don't like you once they get with you. Then they got to break you down. They got to devalue you. They got to have you question your sense of self, question your self-esteem. Notice how your life was going very well before they entered it. Pay attention to that. Because 9 times out of 10, Darius is jealous of KeKe Palmer and her success and her natural light, her ambition, her grind, her success, who she is as an individual. He's jealous because, let's be real, he hasn't amounted to shit. He's sitting up here doing, Philadelphia Eagles commentary on YouTube. That's what his life is. I'm just being real, right? And again, she's got a PPO, a personal protection order, a restraining order. And she has temporary custody of their child, of her son. And again, the red flags were there. I'm not here to blame KeKe Palmer, and people will sit up and say, well, how come she didn't leave? This has been going on for over a year. How come she stayed? How come she didn't leave? Again, if you know anything about domestic violence, intimate partner violence, mental, psychological, physical abuse, toxic, abusive relationships, it's hard to leave these types of people because, again, it's literally like dealing with a Sour Patch Kid. They know when to turn on the love and the care and the fake persona that they use to hook your ass into the situation. They flip-flop. They show you one persona and then they're a totally different person behind closed doors. And what gets me is when people ask, well, how come they didn't leave? I'm not trying to be rude when I say this, but how come your parents didn't break up despite the fact that they were in an abusive relationship? Because a lot of us grew up in toxic households, watching the women in our families be beaten, mentally abused, physically abused, financially abused, verbally abused, and you're sitting up here asking, why didn't they leave? Your mama didn't leave. Your daddy didn't leave. And I'm not saying that to be rude or like, ooh, what you talking about? But I'm just saying, a lot of times it takes up to 7 times before a person is able to finally leave and get away and stay away. And then with a lot of people, if you know anything about intimate partner violence and domestic violence, it's when a woman is fleeing and getting away from her abuser, when the abuser ups the ante. This is when they are at the most risk of death, of physical violence and harm, not only to themselves, but their children. And anybody that has dealt with these toxic, emotionally manipulative, mentally disturbed cis men, they will sit up and harm you and the child, threaten to kill the kids to keep you in the damn relationship, to make you stay with them, and or threaten to commit suicide and harm themselves. On a personal note, 5 years ago, when I was leaving a situation, this person literally told another person that they were in a parking lot and they were going to commit suicide because I wasn't talking to them. And then, of course, that other person ended up basically being a flying monkey, not realizing it, told me, and now I'm sitting up reaching out to the person that I had left because I don't want them to kill themselves, and come to find out it was fake, it was bullshit. But again, when we hear stuff like that, we don't want them to kill themselves even though they are toxic and abusive as hell. But again, this is what toxic and abusive people do. It's all about manipulation, power, and control. He don't like her. He don't respect her. He don't love her. And that's how it is with a lot of these dudes. And don't get me wrong, women can also be violent, abusive, toxic, abusers. Men can also be victims, can also be domestic violence survivors. I'm not saying that they can't, but let's be real. 9 times out of 10, when these situations pop up, it's a woman, it's another person dealing with who? A man, and typically a cis male. So we need to stop sitting up here trying to act like that's not the case the vast majority of the times. Okay? And again, think about that child. That child is in the midst of all of this chaotic shit. And then you wonder why kids grow up to repeat the same cycles that they grew up seeing and being around. I just hope that little boy, that baby, doesn't become like his father. Because a lot of you dudes, y'all grew up seeing your dads beat your moms. You grew up seeing your mom carry the family. And that's why y'all have such a effed up view of relationships, and you treat women horribly, and you think they're supposed to carry your lazy, useless bitch asses. I'm just going there. And or whoever you with, because some of y'all clearly are not heterosexual. It is what it is. Welcome to the queer community, baby. But even in the LGBTQ plus community, we have domestic violence. We have intimate partner violence. And even in the LGBTQ plus gay community, queer community, cis men are violent, okay? And wrecking havoc. This isn't to say that women aren't, trans people can't, intersex men, trans feminine, trans women, non-binary. It isn't to say that we all can't be perpetrators and abusers. However, on average, it's a certain demographic, regardless of race, regardless of class, regardless of sexuality, who's causing the mayhem and abusing people. Toxic masculinity and patriarchy mixed with misogyny and sexism really does cause for a lot of problems for cis men and for everybody, because unfortunately we're all products of this environment. And once again, I'm going to say this. If it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, looks like a duck, god damn it, it's a duck. And a lot of times the red flags are all over the place, and we all choose to ignore them. Because again, if he's sexist and misogynistic, he's likely homophobic. If he's homophobic, he's likely transphobic. Okay? And when you look at Darius Jackson's track record on Twitter, to his social media, to his behaviors and actions, he's been a red flag for quite some time. And again, and even now, who's defending him? It's a bunch of cis men who are defending him. There's also cis men who are speaking out against him and checkmating him and other toxic ass men. But again, it's just odd to me how dudes, particularly cis dudes, will go out of their way to justify abuse. Because 9 times out of 10, they're abusive too. That's why I'd be saying, pay attention to what these people are saying and doing. The reason why they get so upset is because they're also participating in the same exact behaviors. And they don't want to look in the mirror to realize you're just as fucked up as Darius Jackson. And again, to my cis women in particular, you need to stop dating trash. You need to stop procreating with trash. You need to start having a self-esteem and realizing that you deserve better, setting boundaries, and leaving at the first red flag. And I'm going to go even further. It ain't just cis women. It's anybody dealing with cis men. Because a lot of us, including myself, we give them way too many chances to show us that they are not good for us. How many times does somebody have to show you directly and indirectly that they don't really fuck with you? They don't like you. They don't respect you. They damn sure don't love you. And then the effed up part about it is, not only that, but they don't like themselves. They don't respect themselves. They don't love themselves. People can't really give you what they can't give themselves. And that's something that we really have to start looking in at. Listen. Practice what we preach, including me. Red flag, leave. There's no reason to waste time trying to figure out, and that's why I said in that other video about Lori Harvey, she's actually dating the right way. Like, you're not supposed to stick around in situations that are not serving you. Because a lot of us, it's like we have a high threshold for dealing with bullshit and abuse. And then being surprised, like, damn, he really treat me fucked up. Yes, he does. Yes, she does. Yes, they do. And we sit up and we keep allowing it. We don't have to. Domestic violence is real. Intimate partner violence is real. And a lot of times before they get to the physical abuse, there's been a lot of mental and emotional abuse. The name calling, the put downs, always saying something condescending or passive aggressive and then trying to pass it off like, oh, it's not that serious. Oh, I'm just joking. The lack of communication, the switch up. Like I said, they go from wanting to be around you 24/7 to barely talking to you. And in some cases, straight up giving you the silent treatment anytime you bring up issues or anytime they think that you disrespected them or you tried to hold them accountable and now they disappear. These are the early signs of an emotionally toxic, manipulative, unavailable person. And again, like I said, they do this mental and emotional abuse before they get into the physical abuse. Basically, these are the steps. And then it's a cycle. Because next thing you know, oh, I'm sorry, don't leave me. I'm going to kill myself if you leave me. Oh, let me buy you this. Let me do this. Let me act like I'm a good guy or a good girl or a good person again. And they do that just to get you to think everything will get better. It's not. You're just going to keep going on the same cycle, the same roller coaster to nowhere. And now that children are involved, it makes it hard for people to leave. Like I said, cis dudes use pregnancy to trap women. And think about it. These are the main group. Oh, I don't want to pay no child support. That ain't my baby. But yet, in the same breath, they're always the same group that never wants to use protection. And they do a lot of sexual abuse and sexual coercion and manipulation. I mean, literally, from removing condoms without your permission to coercing you into having sex when you don't want to and when you probably shouldn't be doing it, to straight up raping. So it's this is what I mean by cis men don't seem to understand consent until it pertains to them. Because if you do something to them that they don't want to do, they will quickly let you know. But the minute you don't want to do something or you can't do something, they can't take no for an answer. Again, they know consent when it pertains to them, but not when it pertains to other people because they're raised to be predators. It just needs to be said. So, information is in the description box below, not only on what's going on with KeKe Palmer, but also on what intimate partner violence is, domestic violence, and then especially for African American, Black women, literally becoming a hashtag every 5.5 hours. And they're typically murdered and killed by their significant other, by their partners, by their boyfriends, their husbands. their fiancés every 5.5 hours. I've been talking about femicide for over a year. I've been talking about toxic relationships, narcissistic behaviors, narcissistic personality disorder, emotionally unavailable, unhealthy red flags for years, because I've lived through a lot of this shit. And on a personal note, I grew up seeing this shit in my own household, in my own family. So again, with my own friends, it's sad how common this shit is. Again, I'm sending love, protection, strength, healing, positive energy to KeKe Palmer, her son, her family. If you find yourself in a situation like this or something similar, please know that you matter. Your life is valuable, and you do not have to put up with that bullshit. The good thing is, with her getting a PPO, if he does decide to try to pull up, she has every right to defend herself. And if he happens to get pop, 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 drop, she actually has defense in court. Because you know what? There's a PPO. If you come over here, you're violating that PPO. And I have every right to defend me and my son and my child and my family. That's another reason why it's important to have a paper trail when you are dealing with these niggas, with these types of people. Nobody deserves this.